Welcome to Ensuring Revit Model Health with Ideate Software. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software, and we've got a whirlwind presentation for you today on a number of our solutions. When you registered for this presentation, it was just about Ideate BIM Link, Ideate Explorer, and Ideate Style Manager, but I've thrown in our latest product, which is our Ideate Dashboard, which I'll cover since we're reviewing warnings, and warnings are so critical to ensuring your Revit model health. So real quickly, my background is in architecture. Always feel free to contact me at any of these social media links. Email is the best at richard.taylor@ideatesoftware.com, but you can always contact me on Twitter or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to do that. And as I mentioned, Ideate Software is all about simplifying your Revit data challenges. And today I'm going to be focusing on kind of a suite or a bundle of applications that can help you really ensure your Revit model health. So today, like I said, we're going to be focusing on Ideate BIM Link, Ideate Explorer, Ideate Style Manager, and our latest cloud offering, which is the Ideate Dashboard for the Autodesk BIM 360. So a little bit real quickly about Ideate Software. We're really known for our outstanding support. We are supporting on the last 4 releases of Revit, which is Revit 2018 through Revit 2021. We have a lot of content, and I'm going to show a lot of that content today. In fact, that's really some of the majority of the presentation is showing you that we have substantial BIM link definitions already created for things like quality assurance, quality control, and health checks. And I'm even going to show you a sample Excel file that if you are a BIM Link customer, you have access to. And then, of course, as an organization, we do comprehensive QA testing with large, complex data from all around the world. And we are working with Autodesk BIM 360, as you will see here in a moment. And, just like many of you, we're working remotely as well, and the Autodesk BIM 360 environment has become a solution that we can work and collaborate on, and I know many of you are doing the same thing. So let's get right into it, and let's just talk about the first solution I'd like to show today is called Ideate BIM Link, and it is about quality assurance, quality control, and health checks for Revit projects and families. So real quickly, the high-level overview of Ideate BIM Link, if you're not a customer, is that Ideate BIM Link allows you to extract information from the Revit model, all of the parameter data, all of the sort of the data behind the elements, send that to Excel for either review or for manipulation. And so if you do want to manipulate or edit that data, that can be done in Excel, and then you can bring that those updates back into the Revit model. So today, like I said, I'm really going to be focusing on all of the libraries that we include as part of Ideate BIM Link. And specifically, since we're talking about health check of your Revit model, we're going to be talking about project standards, quality control, and in May of this year, we introduced a folder called Health Check. So some of you, even good BIM Link or long-standing BIM Link customers, may not be familiar with that new library called Health Check. And so you can use these libraries to modify. You can use them as a starting base to modify to your own particular needs. And then, of course, you can use them on other projects, and you can save them and so that they're part of your sort of template files as well. So let's first talk about QA, quality assurance. Typically, that means things that you're trying to prevent from occurring, like type and style control. So in Revit, you think about some of the quality assurance tools might be that you're using templates, you're using families, you've got view templates that sort of control how something's going to look, right? Object styles, you set up all the object styles so that you want things to look a certain way. So Ideate BIM Link has a number of link definitions all along project standards, as you see here. Things like that you can review very easily. Assembly codes, details, generic annotations. And again, these typically are type links. They're type information that you want to review. And then when we get to the instance-based data, that's sort of like you're trying to fix things that maybe have already sort of gone off the rails a little bit, and you want to ensure that things that have occurred are set to the correct sort of location and correct parameters. And in Revit, some of the QC tools that you might have at your fingertips are things like schedules, your work set visibility, filters. But for Ideate BIM Link, again, we have a whole folder called quality control. And those are all around information, as you see here, like family naming and groups, and is something mirrored or is it flipped or is it in place? Those are things that are already in your model that you may want to review because those can impact the performance and they can impact really the quality of your Revit deliverables. And then the last library I'd like to talk about today is the health check library. And like I said, this is new in May. We've added this library. And in Revit, you may use things like the warnings of the model, the file size, your sync with central times, how long does it take to open and close, the number of CAD files you have. So some of those things can be reviewed, again, with these health checks. We have created a directory that allows you to export information for dimensions, grids, imports, levels, model lines, revision clouds, and so forth. And I put there at the bottom, this is where this is located. It's in your program files. It's Ideate Software, whatever version you have. So that's why I said 20XX. And then it's under BIM Link, US samples, health check. And in that directory, I'm going to be talking about, in fact, I'm going to go there right now. I'm going to switch over here to this health check directory. You can see this is when you install Ideate BIM Link, you're going to get these link definitions. But we also have a spreadsheet that maybe some of you may not be familiar with. It's called ideate_healthcheck.xls. And this is going to help you sort of review or take a pulse of your Revit model and see if things are sort of getting out of control or if the standards are being met. So let's go back over here. Let's now go to Revit 2021. That's the product or the Revit version I'm using today. I'm going to come over here to Ideate Software. All the products are in the Ideate Software ribbon panel. We're going to come over here to BIM Link. And you'll see that I already have this HC Ideate defined. I'm going to actually go and create a new one just to show you how you would do this. You create new. As I mentioned, you have these basically folders. And, we talked about project standards, right? And we talked about quality control for things that were more instance-based type links, but then health checks, right? So I want to do this HC Ideate. And right away, this little warning tells me that I already have one. So I'm going to call this Demo 2, just to know that it's a new version there. And when I say next, what it does is it takes that information or it takes that template, right, for the that was defined, and it says, okay, here are the properties that you would like to review, and here are the categories. So out of the box, it's actually looking at all of the categories, right? And then it looks at the properties. These are the things that it has: project information, category, and so forth, coordinates. This is part of that health check link. And at any time, you can actually shift, and I can say, you know what, this information here, all this project information, I want to remove it. I don't care about it, right? I just want this information, the work set, the coordinates. So to make things a little bit faster, I've already done that. I've already created this HC Ideate. And what I've done there, just again, to make it a little bit faster, when I went to the categories, I've only selected casework and doors, just so that we're just reviewing that information. So it's a subset of all the information. I've also sorted it because I know that I have some information on the incorrect work set. And so this is causing me some problems, some visibility problems. It's causing me some problems in how I'm actually delivering the information. And potentially, as I work, it could cause some performance issues depending on, which work sets I have open. So I know I want to be able to look at that. So what I'm going to do now is come back over here to the properties and just say it's the same properties. I haven't changed the properties at all. Say OK. And we're going to take this HC Ideate and we're going to export it. And we're going to export it to that health check sample Excel file that's delivered as part of the software. So when I say save, it's going to say, hey, that's already a worksheet. In fact, there's multiple worksheets in this file. And so I'm just going to overwrite that one particular worksheet here. So it goes and exports out all of the data. All right. And once that is complete now, and so you'll see that it's saving the changes to the Excel file, I can now open that file. And in this particular case, you can see that there are a number of tabs or worksheets along the bottom. There is a summary tab here that basically says, oh, you know, we've actually just did casework, the category, we just did doors. There's, you know, view summary, work sets and phasing, imports and links. You know, these are just summary tabs, but those tabs are using information that comes from HC dimensions, HC keynote tags, HC imports, and so forth. So you can actually export each one of these to this health check Excel file. So what we did there, we just did HC Ideate, right? That was one I was reviewing. And if you look at this information, you can see again that we've got our it's instance-based information. It's all the doors and it's all the casework. It's got mark information. It's got, you know, family name. But what I'm really concerned with is the work set. And as I come down here, and the reason I organized that by work set is I realized that, wow, okay, there's a whole bunch of doors that are on the furniture work set. So what I'm going to do, they really should be on shell and core. I'm going to highlight all of these, and I don't want, the base counter can remain on furniture. I'm going to say, I'll update that information and now save it. So in this case, I'm reviewing the information, but I'm also making a change to it. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to import from that information. And in fact, before I do that, I'm going to tip my hand a little bit. And I just want to show you also Ideate Explorer. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's a nice way to visualize this information. In Ideate Explorer, which I'm going to talk about in just a second here, I can switch from the entire project here, and I can sort by work set. So this actually shows me in a nice column format, right? That I've got user-created work sets, I've got furniture work sets, and lo and behold, I've got casework, I've got doors on the furniture work set, and I've got furniture itself, right? And that is not exactly what I want. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to import from the changes we made. So now it tells me all this information that it actually says, oh, these Revit properties changed, you know, nothing's changed yet, as you see over here to the left in Ideate Explorer. It gives me a great chance to review the information, to check, to make sure it's what I really want. Then I can hit import. Once I hit import, watch Ideate Explorer over here is going to update. And you can actually now see over my furniture, only casework and furniture. So those doors were all moved to the shell and core information here. That's the doors, the 67 doors. So again, great way to be able to update that information. So Ideate BIM Link, I'm only scratching the surface here. You can access information that it goes way beyond sort of like what you can deal with Revit schedules. You can rename families and types. You can manage schedule data or data, like I said, that appears in schedules, and also that sort of related data. And we've added parameters, things like, is it flipped? Is it pinned? Is it hidden? Things that just aren't available within a Revit schedule. So all of this can really help you understand your Revit model and ensure that you have a really high quality model for your deliverable as well as for performance. Okay, so Ideate Explorer is all about Revit model auditing and cleanup. And you know, I tipped my hand there a little bit. You saw that I was able to review that by work set. So Ideate Explorer is showing you every instance of every element within your model so that you can really audit your BIM models with certainty. And then we're giving you the information, so it's basically showing you so much more than the project browser. And you can dig a little bit deeper with our Ideate query. Query allows you to search for elements based on their parameter information. And then, of course, this is a huge benefit is being able to review and fix warnings. You're able to review warnings in a very easy way that's very interactive and that you can rank those warnings high, medium, or low. So let's take a look at this. If you're not familiar with Ideate Explorer, you can come over here to the filter. You can go to Ideate Audit, which shows you things that we feel that you should be reviewing when it comes to auditing your information on sort of a daily basis. One of those is CAD imports. So if I look at this and I come down here to I've got multiple CAD imports here, I've got two instances of this door detail. So if I double click, the first instance is actually a door detail drafting view. The second instance is hidden. and it's hidden. Actually, it brings up the view. It's a site plan view. So that is obviously not what I want, right? There should not be door details in the site plan, typically anyway. And so I want to get rid of that. I'm going to delete it right here from Ideate Explorer. And I know now that I have a clean site plan view, right? And so if I go ahead and fit that, it looks great. Now, another instance here, this was a customer that asked us, they had a number of groups, and these groups were hidden. And they said, you know what, they're clogging up our model. We have a really hard time finding them, and we just want to get rid of them, right? And they're 2D detail groups. So we thought about this a little bit, and we said, you know what, let's come down over here to, I'm going to change my filter here, and I'm going to look at detail items. I've got 3,500 of them. I'm going to go over here to lines, which I've got a number of detail lines as well, 17,000 of them, right? So I basically have picked those two categories here. And once those are selected, I now can use the Ideate query. And you see over to the left, because I selected detail items, I've got detail components, filled regions, lines, masking regions, repeating details, and so forth. And so I can come over here and say, well, you know what? Here's where I was mentioning that we have a number of items, right? For instance, like, you know, if I search for, let's say, I think I want is, not in. Okay, there we see it's like, is it flipped? Is it hidden? Is it nested? Is it pinned? So let's just search for items that are hidden, right? So do I have any of these 2D items that are hidden? Well, in fact, I have 32. But what are they, right? Well, again, in this particular selection, they had groups, right? So I want to now search for groups, and we'll come down here. Oops, I think it's group. Boy, my searching abilities today are really bad. Now come over here to name. I'm going to use the control key because I can add up to 3 selections here by using the control property. And so what I'm doing is I'm adding, not only is it hidden, but what's the name of the group. And so I can come down here and I can see that, oh, you know what? And you can probably understand here if I expand this a little bit, I created a detail group called unused detail. So I've got 6 detail items in that. So I'm going to select those. It creates the information for me, and I can actually go to that instance and I can say, well, it's hidden, but I want to open up that view and I want to go ahead and fit that for me. Oops, let's go zoom to fit. And you can see that in red is the items that have been hidden. So I can go over here, I can highlight those things, right? And right here, let's just say I make the determination that this is like an unused group. It was totally wrong. I can go ahead and delete that. And what's interesting is when I delete it, I get this warning because it's the last instance of the group, because it was a 2D group. It was made up of these lines and detail items, but because there are no elements in that group, it also deleted the group, which I think is really quite nice. And that's a Revit thing, but the fact that it's easily accessible through Ideate Explorer is really nice. So again, let's go back to the entire project here, and let's filter by the Ideate audit, again, just to kind of reiterate that you can review that information. Now, the last thing I'd like to do here with Ideate Explorer is come over here to the warnings. And it's a great user interface. I've got this highlighted floors overlap. So I've got 2 elements here. And, you know, if I highlight them in the model, you can actually see them highlighting, but it's kind of hard for me to visualize that. So I'm going to highlight both of them. I'm going to go down to my little sunglasses here, and I'm going to isolate those elements. So now I have just those elements, and I can say, oh, I can very easily see where the problem is, where they're overlapping. So here's something where, you know, Revit is trying to calculate this information. And if you've got overlapping geometry, it can actually impact the performance of your model. So you want to make sure that that is corrected, basically. So now once that's corrected, I can now turn back, reset my temporary hide isolate. Okay, and I have that information, and that warning goes away. There's another warning for duplicate instances. In this particular case, I actually have a tool here that I can either retain the originals or retain the latest. In this case, I'm going to retain the originals. Those things got duplicated by mistake. So if I say retain originals, it automatically puts the duplicated ones into the delete. It says, oh, well, do you want to delete 64 curtain wall mullions and 11 pieces of furniture? I say, yes, I do. Now there are no high-ranked warnings in my model, so my alert icon goes away. And if I want to say like line sketch is slightly off axis, then maybe that's something I don't really want to review because it's not really a warning in the case of that I'm reviewing. And the same way with highlighted walls are attached, I want to hide that. So if I hide those two, you'll notice that this other alert icon goes away because what we've done is we've set up a threshold for how many warnings we are allowed per 100 megabyte file. So again, really nice to be able to review that information. And so, warnings, like I said, are so critical to your model health. And speaking of that, we've introduced Ideate Dashboard for Autodesk BIM 360. This dashboard is allowing you to review information or model information that have been published up to BIM 360. So it has to be published data. And this allows you to review information sort of at an aggregate level or at a model level, right? So it's for BIM managers, it's for BIM team leads that want to review, are these models getting out of hand? And then you can use Ideate Explorer to actually fix those warnings. So I kind of wanted to show an overview of that real quickly. So I'm going to go to my browser here, and I'll just show you how you would go about doing that, right? You would come over here, and I'd come over and I'd log in. And so I logged out specifically just to show you the process here. And I'm going to say log in, and now at Ideate Software. So I'm now logging into our BIM 360 environment with our projects, right? And I have a number of projects up here, and I'm going to go to my project home. And in my project home, I have set up some cards that allow me to review warning information. And for more details on this, there's a lot of information on our website. I'm not going to go into how you set up all these cards, but what I'm going to do is actually now I'm actually logged in here. You can see that there's the total warnings per megabyte file here for this. And let's say I go and choose a different one. As an example, this MEP file. There are 26 high-ranked warnings. There are 335 medium and 41 low-ranked warnings. If I want to get an aggregate of a project, you'll see across all project files, I can look at the information, which is the warnings per megabyte, right? Or another card that we have is the overall total warnings count. So even though, like in this case, this MEP file has a large number of warnings, it may or may not be the same when it comes to this warnings per megabyte. So we've kind of given you two different cards for a quick review of this project information. And so, like I said, you can see that I can choose, different projects that I have access to on BIM 360. And again, different files. So like if I wanted to go to the shell and core file, I can see that there are no high-ranked warnings. There are 10 medium and only 4 low-ranked warnings. So again, just a quick overview of this new feature. We have a lot more information on our website about how you would go about even trialing this. And then finally, there is Ideate Style Manager. Style Manager allows you to keep quality control for your Revit projects, families, as well as templates. And so back in the Revit model, let's say we fixed all of our warnings and we've done everything with Ideate BIM Link and we've done things with Ideate Explorer, but we still have some styles that we can't seem to get rid of, right? There's some object styles from maybe some CAD imports. There's some patterns that have been copied in that don't meet our standards. How do we go about sort of understanding where they're being used? And if they are being used, how can we sort of get rid of them? So some of these, as an example, object styles, if you create some object styles or you copy them, you could just delete them, but you have no idea the impact of what that's going to be on your project. It could really impact the deliverables. So let's come back over here to Ideate Style Manager, and we're going to start Style Manager. And for those of you that do have Style Manager, you might notice that there is a few more collections. So I'm showing you a sneak peek of our latest Ideate Style Manager that we're planning to deliver here shortly. So if you see some new collections here, that's why. And so all of these work very similar. And I'm just going to show you as an example, like fill patterns, right? And so in this case, I've got some fill patterns. I want to review where they're being used. But first, I want to see, are there duplicates? So what it does is right away, based on the sort of the information about that particular fill pattern, it's telling me, color coding me all of the duplicates. So I've got this vertical wood and this vertical wood 1 that are both defined with the same pattern. This question mark means it hasn't been analyzed, meaning I don't know where it's been used. So I can double click to analyze both of these and find out where they're being used in what elements. So you see here in this one, I actually have some families, I've got some materials. In this one, I've got filled regions, right? So the first thing I might want to do is, well, first of all, that doesn't match my standards at all. So I'm going to call this vertical wood pattern. And so I've just renamed it, right? Then the second one, this vertical wood, I want to merge those materials and families to use the vertical wood pattern. So I'm going to say merge. I'm going to say, is there some duplicates defined? In this case, there is. I want to merge it into the vertical wood pattern and say merge. It will actually open up that family in the background, make that change, and then it saves it as part of the project. So it's the family within the project. And any, like I said, material information. So there's always a nice little chart here that basically says what's been created with families, materials, it's been updated. So now it's no longer a duplicate. So I'm going to untick isolate duplicates. I'm going to search for vertical. And there we have our vertical wood pattern. And I'm going to double click again to analyze it. And you see now it's contained, it has families, it has materials, and it has element types as well. And so again, each one of these could be reviewed very easily. And so, this gives you a way to really understand the information, where it's being used, clean it up if it's a non-standard style, and make sure that your model is lean and clean and very well performing. So again, that's just a really highlight of Ideate Style Manager. And again, it's all about risk assessment. You're not making these, you're analyzing where it's being used, and then you can make the determination whether you need to merge it to a standardized style or whether you need to delete it. And it really comes in handy with imports when you've actually had a lot of CAD imports like AutoCAD files. All of these styles, these object styles, line styles can really start to muck up your project. And so you want to make sure that these are removed if they're not being used, and that you have, again, a very clean model. And the idea is you just don't hope for the best. You're using all of these tools to really understand your Revit model and create and ensure a high-performing Revit model. So with that, I know we're just at the top of the hour, but I wanted to switch it over to Glynis and see if there's any questions that you'd like me to highlight as part of the group.
Hey, Richard, it's Glynis here. Thanks. We had a great question from Martin, which I have answered in the chat panel, but it was about the significance of the metric, the warnings per megabyte metric. And the answer that I provided is, that's something that in our beta testing, we queried a lot of BIM managers worldwide to understand sort of where the line was in terms of performance. And it was actually pretty, it was one of the few things that people really agreed on, that when you hit that mark of having more than one warning per megabyte of file size, that's when you really need to stop and clean up. And that's the metric that you see both in the dashboard that Richard showed, as well as within the Explorer context.
Great question. And since you're talking about that, Glynis, again, I mentioned on our website, if you go and you select, there's a link for Ideate Dashboard for BIM 360. You'll click on that, and there's some information here. There's actually a video, but you can fill out information if you'd like to know a little bit more. And our product manager, David Haynes, will contact you and give you some more information. So there's just this little form here that you can fill out if that's something you'd like to review for the dashboard of warnings. Was there any other burning questions?
Yeah, we had a couple other ones. The next one comes from Bill, and he wanted to know about deleting or removing viewport types from the model. And I've again replied in the chat panel that is something that in our very upcoming pending version, which should be released towards the end of November, as Richard's showing here, that is something that we will be supporting. So you can choose to review, and when you see the 0 usages one or even here, you could actually get rid of it. So.
Yeah, I think maybe in this alt. So let's see. Actually, I don't know. I'm sure there's probably, if I'm going to do a shift select, I'm going to analyze all of them. which shouldn't take too long because there's not that many viewports. But there's probably one here that has a 0 usage. As I'm assuming, yeah, this one right here. So that one, as an example, I know now I can delete it. And again, I have no impact on this Revit model because I'm deleting that DWG title. It hasn't been used anywhere. Or I can merge it to a standard style first and then delete the one that I don't want.
Absolutely, and of course the trick there is that, as probably all of us on the call know, there are certain viewports that even when they are not in use, Revit won't let us use purge, and that's part of the problem or the challenge that Style Manager is taking on. We're working around that weird limitation. So thank you. And then the next question up was talking about BIMlink and the health check, the link definitions that you were showing earlier. The question was, can we point to our own version? We've created our own health check content. How do we use BIMlink to sort of reference that instead of the ones?
Absolutely. In fact, people may not know, if they've been a long time BIMlink customer, that we've added this cog, which we have added to quite a few of our applications. And this cog is a setting in Ideate BIMlink on the main dialog, and that will allow you to set where your link locations will be shown. And so right now it's showing it's coming from the samples directory, but that could be your own network drive or a Dropbox location, for instance, that has your particular defined link locations, right? The same way the homepage, this homepage here to the left of the dialog, can also be customized to show your company information. It's a great question. And like I said, in a half hour, it's very, very hard to show all of the great, health information that we can provide with our Ideate software solutions. But hopefully I showed just, touched on the surface of how, Ideate BIMlink can help you. Ideate Style Manager can help clean up things. Ideate Explorer can help you audit. And then the Ideate dashboard for Autodesk BIM 360 can help you review those warnings at either a project level or at a particular file level. So I want to thank everyone for your time and attention. Thank you very much for your interest in Ideate software. Please fill out the short survey and don't be a stranger. And please ask us plenty of questions. And I'm always available on, like I said, either LinkedIn or my email for additional questions. So thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful day.